Hi everyone, this is a demo of the new high availability Gitaly functionality that is in the process of being built. Gitaly is what GitLab uses to pull in Git data. So it is often a single point of failure for a lot of setups, particularly larger ones. Um, Today you can have two options for how to store your Git data. Either you're using local storage, which is fast, but a single point of failure, or you can use NFS, which you go to appliance and be much more survivable, but has the disadvantage of adding a lot of performance overhead. Uh, Gitaly HA by a prefect gives you the option to have multiple Gitaly servers, which potentially could all use local storage behind a single endpoint that GitLab can see. That way, you've got multiple copies of your data out there in the wild. Let me share my screen here. So here is a quick diagram of the kind of the idea. So you've got your GitLab Rails server. Here is a local Gitaly server, so just running on local-host, or it could be um, a standard standalone Gitaly. And then here we have Prefect, which is kind of like a reverse proxy, where GitLab only sees Prefect, it sends a request to it, and then Prefect will then dole out the requests to its child Gitaly nodes, Prefect Gitaly 1, etc. And maintain these in eventual consistency. My understanding is it uses Git under the hood to keep them all in sync. That way, it's an atomic operation. So unlike rsync, where if it crashed partway through, you could have corrupted data. And a Git operation, fetch or pull or whatever, is atomic. So if it collapses halfway through, you don't lose any data. It's just a transaction that's lost. Um, so it's a little more survivable that way, and it has the advantage of already being built for us, so we can just hook into that already. Okay, so let's go through a quick demo of how to set up a Gitaly HA cluster. So it's going to be not quite this exact setup. So we're going to have a GitLab server, we're going to have a prefect server, and then we're going to have two Gitaly nodes underneath that prefect server. The eventual goal is to host prefect on the GitLab Rails server itself, but as of today, that the functionality doesn't work yet. So we have to host prefect on its own server just to get things up and running. So let's go ahead and get started with that, and we'll just go through the docs here. We'll start with the prefect node. So up here is our prefect node. Just copy that up. E. So it's set up here is essentially like a standalone Gitaly server with a few things added on. So up here at the top, you can see we've turned off most services, including Gitaly. And migrations are turned off. We've enabled prefect. We're having prefect listen at port 2305 from all addresses. This virtual storage name here is the name that we are going to present to GitLab. So GitLab, when it is accessing this prefect or the child prefect nodes, it's going to think it's only accessing one, which is called prefect, and prefect will then do these requests out to the children. Prefect auth token is the token that it uses to authenticate with GitLab proper. So that'll be the GitLab Rails Gitaly token on the Rails server. So these two have to match up just so they can communicate with each other. And then down here, these prefect storage nodes are the child nodes that prefect is going to connect to. So in our case of our demo, we're looking at two. So I'll just delete this third node from the example. So they can see their name, prefect Gitaly 1, prefect Gitaly 2. Address is the IP address or URL or whatever of the server. Token is the authentication token. So just like prefect uses auth token to connect to Rails, this is what prefect is using to connect to the Gitaly server so they can authenticate with each other. And then one and only one of these prefect nodes, or Gitaly nodes I should say, is made into the primary from which the other ones replicate off of. So let's go ahead and fill in the details for these two servers here. Just a address. And fill in second. Okay, and that's really all we have to update on the prefect server. It's quite straightforward. So let's that. and move down to the Gitaly servers next. Okay, so we've got Praefect running. That's weird. What just happened there? There we go. Okay. Now we need to go in and update the Gitaly servers or configure them to work with Praefect. And so it's essentially a standard Gitaly server with one or two small differences. And we'll just delete the standard event config. And so just like the other one, we've turned off all the services except for Gitaly in this case, of course. We do have to update the internal API URL. So that is the URL of the app server, the Rails server, that these need to authenticate with by a GitLab shell. So if we don't have that, then a lot of actions will fail. After we've got that, I'll just use the internal IP address here. Let me pull up Prefect again. So here you can see that the token that we've got here on the Prefect server matches the token that we have here on the Gitaly server. This way the two can connect. We've got Gitaly listening on port 8075. And down here, this is the storage name that we have here and Prefect. So these two have to match up. We're just going to point it to the default path that we have for local storage. So that's it for the customization we have to do here. And now let's do the same on another one. So the other one, we have to update the internal URL. And then just update this to here. Okay, we are almost done with the Gitaly servers. One more thing we have to do, and that is to get the GitLab secrets.json file over here so that they can properly authenticate, but we don't have that generated on the Rails server yet. So let's go there. All right, so for the Rails server, we can basically just take a vanilla config. We're just gonna add our get data ders, and then we'll set our auth token for Prefect. So let's go ahead and do that. URL so we'll create a default storage, which will go to the default path. And we'll do Prefect, which goes to address. And what's that address? Okay. Port 2305. Okay. And just add token. Okay. So you can see that the Gitaly token matches up with the auth token over here. And that's all the configuration to do on the Rails server. So configure that. And once this finishes, we can then go in and just copy the JSON over to the two Gitaly servers. This will take a minute for it to reconfigure. But I can't do that. Almost done. It's pretty riveting, huh? All right, great. And we're done. Okay. Copy this to my users directory. Okay. And let's copy that over to the other Gitaly nodes. So we only need to copy this to the Gitaly nodes because they will be performing the GitLab shell callbacks for authentication. Prefect itself never does this. So we don't need to worry about that on the Prefect node, only on the Gitaly nodes. One and the other. All right, so that should be good. So let's reconfigure our Gitaly nodes. And while we're waiting on that, we can get signed into the Rails node and start getting things up. Oops. Uh, there we go. There we go. Copy my license in. Move this off screen for a second. Okay, that's in. Everything's reconfigured. So to start with, we go to default storage. So let's just create a project to make sure that works. Initialize with a README to make sure we can create files, because that is something that fails if Prefect is not configured properly. Not that we're using Prefect for this particular one, but just as something to be aware of. Okay, so that worked great. We've got a file. So let's go in and update our default repository storage to be Prefect instead of storage. Well, wait a second. Propagate and let's tail Prefect here. Tail Gitaly on to. Okay. Looks like it started up okay. It registered our nodes. These are coming up okay too. Good. So far, so good. Although I don't think currently Prefect does not really check that things are okay until you actually try to do something. So let's put it to the test. So create a Prefect project. No. Initialize with README. Create the project. Things are moving. That's good. And perfect. We've got a file. Excellent. And so in the background, you can see that both Gitaly 1 and Gitaly 2 are doing work. So as you recall, I'm not sure if I called this out or not, but we made one node primary. So Gitaly 1 is primary. And so that one will be where things are sent first, and then Prefect 2 or Gitaly 2 will lazily catch up with that. Since this is just, there's nothing else going on there, it's basically immediate, but potentially configuration with a lot of traffic, it might take longer. I don't know how long. I don't know if anyone does yet. But you can see here we're doing calculating a checksum where all these RPCs are coming in. So let's actually go in. Let's see what the path to this project is. Prefect test. Okay, so it is on Prefect storage, and here is its path. Okay, so let's go into both Gitaly servers and validate that we have the data we expect. Okay. Log, log. They are identical. Same content. Yep, everything looks good. So as you can see, the two nodes are kept in sync just by Prefect itself. All right, let's try breaking a little bit and see if what happens, just so you can see just what happens. So let's go into E and let's tell it to listen on the wrong port. Or try to do that. All right, so let that reconfigure finish. Okay, that works. Let's try creating a new project. Prefect test 1. Create a README. Proceed. Socket closed. Okay. So now let's check in log GitLab, Rails, production.log. There we go. Okay. So we don't get a nice stack trace, we just get socket closed. Let's check the prefect logs. I'll actually log an error here. Here we are. Okay. I failed to create repository. All subcons are in transient failure. Okay. Yeah, all right. And here's the address we're trying to connect to. That makes sense. Perfect. So as you can see, from the UI perspective, it's not always clear what's blowing up. In this case, it was not bad. I think. Revert that. Let's try changing to the token here. See what that does. Okay, let's try creating another project. 500. All right. Backtrace this time. Okay. And here we get a permission denied error. So does it actually tell us anything about Prefect? It just talks about Gitaly client. Well, I guess Prefect is a Gitaly client, so that makes sense. Okay. Revert that. Anything else I want to make fail? Let's try just changing this. Do we want to change that? I'll try making this token bad instead. Give Prefect a second to come back up. Okay. That loads. Test one. Create a README. Another 500. What do we get this time? It's permission denied again. And here we get permission denied within Prefect itself. So it's just passing that error up to Rails. Okay. All right. I think that covers pretty much everything. So again, the point of Gitaly HA is to let you distribute your Git data amongst multiple servers transparently to GitLab. GitLab, as far as it knows, only thinks there's a single storage called Prefect, and then these two Gitaly servers here are it doesn't even know they exist. They do still have to contact it though for the internal API calls. So they still need to be able to connect to each other and have the GitLab secrets present. But GitLab is not really aware of what they are. Anyway, that's it. I hope it was useful, everyone. Thanks for watching.